about how to prioritize what part of your business you should be focusing your systemization efforts on next. This is something we typically do with clients once they've got past that initial foundation stage of maybe hiring their first member of staff or hiring their first virtual assistant or remote worker, and they've delegated some tasks over, and now they want to look at how they actually delegate the management of complex multi-step processes. This is you. If you have anyone in your team already working for you, that's the stage where you're at, even if you don't quite know it yet. And after this episode, hopefully you'll see why. This is one of those moments in our clients' journeys, typically when they have a huge aha. It's like now they see how this all fits together, what systemization is going to do for them, both in terms of their business growth and their freedom of their time from that business, but also in actually just giving them the full picture of, wow, this is actually what my business does. It does quite a lot, and no wonder it's actually taking over my life. Let's actually do something about it. And it's this core revenue flow, as we call it, is how we map that out. I'm going to talk you through that during this episode. Okay, so the core revenue flow is at the heart of really structuring how you systemize your business. In its initial stages, systemization can be as simple as just delegating work effectively, creating your operations manuals for the tasks you're giving to your virtual staff or your in-house staff, or for the tasks that in-house staff are already doing, and getting those documented to protect your business, when people leave or they go on vacation or whatever. In this episode, I'm talking about something we dubbed the core revenue flow. That is to say that if you could map out a path for your clients through your business, from the moment of them not knowing who you even exist to them becoming raving fans, repeat business, and generating profits for you going forward, if we could map that out and then systematically systemize each step in that process, you then have a revenue flow that doesn't require your day-to-day involvement. And that's what this is about. Because if we can do that for one major part of the business, or the main revenue flow of your business, you are then free to focus on all the other stuff, the other avenues of generating income or the great ideas you've got, without the risk of you ending up running out of money. So this is why this is one of those moments in our clients' journeys where they suddenly get a big aha. They suddenly see how everything fits together. And it's quite a simple exercise to go through. And it's one that I typically guide our clients to, and I hopefully give you the insights that I give those as we go through this process. And we do this using a simple flow chart. You could do it on a Word document. You could do it in a spreadsheet. We like to use Lucidchart, which is a flowchart app that I use for pretty much all of our process mapping and brainstorming and mind mapping and prioritization charts and all the rest of it. But so in essence, it's just a simple flow, a flow showing the journey of a client or prospective client or a prospective lead all the way through to becoming an opportunity, to becoming a paying client, to becoming an advocate of your business, an affiliate, a promoter, and also by actually becoming a repeat business or a repeat customer of yours as well. So let's start at the beginning. As we map this out, we do top to bottom. You might like to do this left to right. It doesn't make any difference to me. Whatever makes sense to you. And we're going to go through some stages. And at each stage, we're trying to just identify the core systems that are involved in getting the prospect through to the next stage. I'll go through very quickly all the stages and I'll go back through. So just to give you that sort of high level picture. So first of all, we've got that awareness and authority. How does the world know about you? We then need to know how we capture people's information, their contact details into your database or your system, or however you're actually following people up. How you nurture those people through from being just part of your audience into a lead, into a prospect, then into an opportunity. How do we qualify them? How do we close them? How do we chase them up? How do we collect money from them? How do we upsell them on other products and services you may have? How we multiply that initial contact in terms of referrals and things? How we then onboard that person? How we serve them? How we amplify that again by getting more referrals from them? And how we then repeat the process or get a repeat business, from that person by getting them to maybe buy a future product from you and really increase the lifetime value. Before we start actually going through this, it's really important to get super clear on two things. Firstly, which of your products or services is your core product, which is the one that really gives you the highest revenue overall. And therefore, if we can systemize that revenue stream, it will have the potential to create income without you having to do anything, and enough income to support your business so you can go off and do loads of other fun stuff and create new ideas in business. So be super clear on which product or service it is, and it's got to be just one. That's the point, is we're going to start with one, and then once you systemize the hell out of one core revenue, you can then look at the other revenue streams in your business. The second thing you've got to be absolutely nailed, be absolutely certain on, is who your target audience is for that particular product or service. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples. So we work a lot with property people, and they will have different types of products and different types of audiences, even within their in effect, their core revenue. They'll have landlords. They may have the fact they're actually finding and deal sourcing properties. They may have, or they will have, tenants if they're a landlord and estate agent. And therefore, you've got three areas which all generate the income, as in you need properties, or you need landlords to give you their properties, and you need tenants. But ultimately, if you're looking at like, how do you actually generate the income? Is it for your business actually getting those landlords in? Is that what you see as the main driver? That's where your challenges are at the moment. Or is it actually in filling the rooms that you've got, and therefore it's the tenants? I'd probably say most property type businesses, you should be focusing on the acquisition of new properties and landlords, because that's actually how you grow income in your business. Whereas the tenants is more how you actually keep that income coming in. But with a limited number of properties, you limit your income. Whereas if you have a infinite way of getting new properties into your business, you've just got to try to serve those clients, and your client is your landlord, even though your tenants are actually paying you the rent. So in that way, I think for properties, the core one to go for first, unless you've got an abundance of properties and lack of tenants, of course, would be to actually look at your property or your landlord acquisition. In my business, I'm an expert business, if you like, so I'm a coaching service. So mine's pretty straightforward. The people I need are the people I serve, and that needs to be a very specific market in order to know that how I actually drive the marketing and how I actually set the business up, so that actually I can actually find and serve the core client that I want to serve. So your target audience needs to be very specific, needs to be a niche, and it needs to be well defined. So is it a small business? Is it a small business in a specific industry? Is it a small business in a specific industry that lives in a certain area, region of the world, or a part of the country? And maybe it's of a certain size, so under 10 employees, between 10 and 100 employees, or whatever it is that actually your core product or service serves best. Focus these thoughts that we're going to go through in this episode, focus on that specific avatar for your clients. There's loads of stuff out there about creating or really defining your avatar really well. Go onto YouTube or Google, whatever, use ChatGPT to help you do this, and to actually really get crystal clear on the specifics of the person you are attracting. And then once you've got that in your head, you can then go through this process. So we're going to do step by step as we go through this. So in the first boxes, if you like, so the top of our page, we're going to have the awareness and the authority. So here it's all about, how do people know what you do, know who you are, where do they find you in social media or on the web, and how do you actually build authority so that people maybe who are looking in from the outside, your audience, slowly gain trust with you because you are giving them value, you're serving them, and therefore they move towards you. And as soon as they start moving towards you, we'll be moving on to the next step. And this could be as a social media website, it could be paid traffic, it could be partner traffic, so actually doing partnerships and list swaps with people, all your different media channels, referrals as well, or other partnership relationships you have. All those things are absolutely fair game. But now what you've got to decide is, of all those things you could be doing, what are the core ones? I think the best way to look at this, because we're looking here at creating a revenue of business that is sustainable and that is predictable, because that way we can be more certain that if we have to take our attention away, it will still work. So what I advise our clients and what we do internally is to look at past history. What's worked in the past? So is it actually your social media groups or your Facebook or whatever, or your LinkedIn? Is that where you're getting most of your leads from? Is it through referrals? Is it through partners? So pick the one that really is the most consistent for you and your business, for the types of clients you're trying to find and the type of business you have, that has already got proven results. That way you're more likely to be able to repeat that by just doing more of what you're currently doing. So if you systemize something that is working, it's likelihood it's going to work in the future as well. If you systemize something you're unsure about, then it's less predictable. So when we're going through this, we're not trying to create a business growth machine. We're trying to create your core revenue flow. Again, just the tips that I try to give people as we're going through this, because it's very easy to get distracted and put everything down, and then it's then a job of having to prioritize those things out, and it just adds to the workload of doing this. So if you can do this as you're going through and try and be as specific as you can and clear on the absolute necessity, the core, the most predictable, that's the way I would go with this, especially on this initial time of ever doing this. So ideally, this is how do you attract and grow, build authority and trust with your ideal leads, people that you know just by doing what you do best, you will serve them at a very high level. You don't have to go out your way and change what you do. It's like, this is what we do. There's a certain type of people that just love what we do. They get massive value from it without us having to like go out the way or change what we do or put extra effort in. Those are the people that we need to try and attract in this core revenue flow. Once you've actually, those people are aware of what you do in the world and you're starting to build authority, we then need to capture their details into our system. Is this through a lead magnet or a webinar that you run, somehow to get people's email addresses and phone numbers so you can then actually contact them and keep on nurturing them, or maybe ring them and get a sales process involved and actually finding out more about them, maybe serving them some more, and then ultimately actually getting them to hopefully become a client? Is it that you have an opt-in form on your website and that's driving the most traffic at the moment? Or you're actually doing social media and actually using the social media messaging as the tool to actually nurture people? That, although that isn't the terminology of owning your list or your rented list. So owning your list is when you have it, say you have their phone number or email, so that is yours and no one can take that away. Whereas if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever, that actually it's in someone else's database, but you may create a list of all those people, but ultimately it is possible that that could be taken away from you if you get banned from any of those social platforms. And that's actually quite scarily easy to get done, and for no good reason. And we have been banned in the past, and I've never found out how or why. And we've obviously back on most of these platforms now. But it can be very frustrating, especially if you are relying on that to generate your business. Therefore, it can be very scary if suddenly that gets cut off and you lose all your contacts that you've been building up and nurturing. And so therefore, if you're on a rented list, a rented space, so to speak, it's not as powerful as actually having that list of your own. And therefore, if you do have a method to capture them, then that's good. So thinking about how do you capture these people in means that then once you've systemized that approach, therefore you can continue to actually build that list and build the numbers of people, the leads you have, and then obviously increase ultimately, hopefully the sales you're going to get as well. And then once you've actually captured them, so you've got their details, how do you actually nurture them? So do you have email automation tools set up? Have you got a VA who's sending out the latest podcasts or whatever, or contacting them? Do you segment that audience? So what tools are you using here as well? And so I'm just going to flip back actually 1 second, because I missed a really key point of this. And I don't want to just keep on going. Is at each stage when we're going through, so the awareness authority, what apps are you using to make that process easier? So for example, for us, for awareness and authority, we use an app called StoryChief, which helps us to schedule and monitor all of our social media posts and our emails, and allows us to track exactly, sorry, not our emails, let's say all our social media posts, all of our LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, all the rest of it. And we can see the engagement on those posts so we can actually get that data and do something with it and improve things going forward. And obviously for us, we also have this podcast. So we have the podcast app in there as well. So these are the key tools that we're using and the key systems that are, or the key apps that we're using to systemize those parts of our business. And then obviously for the capture part, you may have an opt-in form, you may have lead magnets, they may be hosted on a platform, on ClickFunnels or Lead Pages or whatever you're using. And then you'll need a form, and where does that form go? So there'll be a CRM probably in the back end, which is actually then logging all of those client details, their phone numbers, their email addresses, for example. So what CRM do you use, and what automations within that CRM are you utilizing in order to do this? Now we're back onto nurture. So on nurture is about how, once you've got people into your audience, into your list, whether that is through, just keeping a record of who you're contacting, where you're up to on a platform like LinkedIn or Facebook, or if you've actually got them into your CRM. So how do we actually then give them more value? How do we build trust with them? How do we convert those leads into prospects? And so for us, we have email automation tools. So we use ActiveCampaign. We also use Go High Level. We have a CRM built in. We've built in Asana to track and monitor all of our social media leads in order to actually see, where people are up to and what we've sent them already, and just keep track of all of that, because it can get quite difficult to monitor where things are up to when you're on multiple platforms. And so creating something simple like in Asana, we have a project in Asana that we use for this, or you can actually there are some fancy apps that will track most things. Some things are more challenging, like LinkedIn, and be able to message from there. But yeah, so we found that Asana was a very easy thing to set up for this purpose. Once you've nurtured people, we want to actually then qualify them. So we want to be asking questions about, how do we know this person is a good lead, and therefore we want to turn those leads into the prospects we've got on a list, we want to turn those prospects into actually opportunities. And so to do that, we need to actually ask either specific questions. You could have a survey that you send out. So what survey app are you using, for example? Or you could be asking specific questions to lead people down a path towards you, and finding out, are they the right size of business? Do they have the pains that you can solve by doing what you do anyway, and therefore they are a good qualified lead? And now, how do we then get their phone number if you haven't already got it? How do we then contact them? So we're now in the close stage. So we're closing people by reaching out, phoning them, getting them to actually book a call with us. Maybe if it's a lower end product or lower price product, you're actually just giving them access to actually click that and go and to actually to check out online. Or it may be that you have a more formal process like we do, where I actually speak to people, because we're coaching programs. We want to be sure that the people that we speak to, that come on our coaching program, are the right fit for our business. So we've gone through authority and awareness, capture, then we've done nurture, then we've done qualify, and now we're at the stage of close. After closing, we've got a section called chase. So what processes do we have in place when a person, an opportunity that we've spoken to, they didn't end up buying on that occasion, or they didn't end up booking the call? So we want to be able to follow up with those people, see how they go in the future, maybe try to contact them again. We want to be professional, and we want to be persistent, and we want to be purposeful about our attempts to actually help these people. They've flagged themselves up as being, they need what we have. They've got this pain. We know they're the right size of business. We've qualified them. And now we want to have a system around actually making sure that we are making our best efforts to get in contact with them, so we can serve them and help them, and hopefully get them the results they want. And obviously, in doing so, then provide new business opportunities for ourselves. Once you have got them locked in, we need to actually collect the money. So what systems do you use for actually collecting money? Do you use bank transfers? Do you use Stripe? Do you use a payment gateway? We just need to know what it is, and make sure that there are systems in place to link that to the actual closing process. So is there a checkout page you share with them? Do you send them a link, or how does that happen? And also then next, once you've actually collected the money, how can we then automate the onboarding process going forward? So again, mapping this out gives you that clarity to say, these are the big steps involved. We're just going to stop here for a second, because in talking this through, It's very easy, or as you're going through this, it's very easy to get really dug down into the details at this point. But what we're actually trying to do is keep it quite high level. So thinking about the systems in general. So for example, I would just want to say that if it was the chasing process, I would just say that we have a pipeline in our CRM and somebody chases them up. That's it at this point. I'm not going into detail of when we chase them, how frequently, do we phone them, do we message them, do we send a voicemail drop, all that stuff. That isn't for this core revenue flow. The simple idea is we use our CRM and a pipeline to do that, and a salesperson. That's what we need to know here, because that's what we need to decide later, the priority of actually creating a system around. So, and that's the case. That's the same for every part of this. We want to try and keep it high level, keep it simple in this core revenue flow. We're trying to paint the bigger picture stuff, and then we get down into the detail when we then decide which part of this process is the one that actually is taking our most of our time, and therefore that's where we should be focusing our efforts on first to systemize and ultimately free us up from having to do that ever again. Okay, so we've started off by awareness authority, we've captured, we've nurtured, we've qualified, we've closed, we've chased them, we've collected the money from them, and now there's opportunity to upsell. So do you offer any upsells at this point? Whether that's through a checkout facility with an upsell page, whether that's on the phone, and you're just asking them, would you like some additional services? Are you aware that we do X, Y, and Z as well? Is there an opportunity here? Again, just formalizing it, how that process works, allows you to make sure that when you're systemizing it, that's not missed out. After upsell, we've got multiply. This is about how you collect referrals from people at the point of sale. When somebody buys something from you, they're obviously excited about the opportunity to work with you and get the results that they're hoping they're going to get. And a great way for them to actually do that even better is by getting someone to come on board and keep them accountable, and also by sharing what they've invested in and getting other people to come in. It qualifies their own investment as well. It makes them feel like, I'm not crazy investing with this company. They're not going to rob me because this other person also thought it was a good idea as well. And so actually it helps to solidify that purchase, and also to the purchase decision, and then remove a bit of that buyer's remorse, which people sometimes have. So being able to then ask at that point of sale and having a process, and then how do we capture those referrals, where are they stored, how are they followed up, etc. Having that systemized as well means we give people the opportunity to do that, make those referrals, and obviously then hopefully generate further revenue for ourselves as well. Once we've done that, so we've gone through all of the awareness, we've captured the details, we've collected, we've upsold, we've now multiplied, and the next thing we need to do is to onboard. So onboarding for some small business owners is literally them, ringing the client, plugging them into the systems, getting them actually set up and actually filling out forms and getting things signed. And what we want to do is to actually make that process put that process on autopilot. And I use autopilot rather than automated, because yes, you may be able to automate this entirely, but if you haven't already fully systemized it and put it on autopilot using staff members to do this for you, then automating it will then rely on you to do a lot of work, and it's actually much easier to get other people to do it in the interim. So we want to put the processes here on autopilot so that you can remove yourself, and then ultimately your staff members can then help you to automate as much of this as possible once it's up and running. And when I say staff members, for us, that is our virtual team based in the Philippines. For you, it might be someone in-house or otherwise. So for us, onboarding is about linking our payment gateway to our course platform, to our community platform, so that people actually get access. They can connect with each other. They can get the course content. They get links to booking their Kickstarter sessions, their onboarding calls. They understand what it is that's expected of them, how they are going to get the results they've paid for, and giving them that experience of feeling like they've made a really good buying decision because of being attentive. And the more we can systemize this, the more we can put it on autopilot and eventually automate it, means that we consistently give our clients a brilliant onboarding experience. So here, again, don't get stuck in the details. What are the main things that are going to happen? So for example, if you have a course, how are they going to get access to the course site? If you're in property, then how are you actually going to get them to sign the contracts? What apps to use for doing that? Do you use DocuSign or Signable or whatever? What's your course platform? What integrates? Do you have to use Zapier to integrate anything? So you want to be specific, as in like specific enough to know like what apps are needed and how we connect them together. But again, we're not going to go into the minute detail here. We're just trying to create, as I say, the core revenue flow at a high level. So we've found people, we've closed them, we've chased them, we've upsold them, we've multiplied them, we've onboarded them, and now we're going to actually deliver what we've promised them. So once they've onboarded, we've now actually got to give them what they've paid for. And so this is for us all about actually making sure they're engaging in the coaching, giving them accountability, reviewing homework, helping them with the completion of tasks and completion of documentation, etc., and like getting them actually started on this processing, this systemization journey to hiring their first assistant or the next assistant, mapping out their core revenue flows, for example. So all of these things is how we deliver. So everything we do with our clients needs to actually be formalized and systemized so that every client gets the same experience. And if you, for example, I work with, as I say, lots of property people, and often when I start working with them, this is the point where the business owner is really stuck. They're the one chasing up the contract still. They're the one making sure the deposits, checking the bank to make sure the deposits are being paid. They're the one that are just making sure that that all of the bits, like updating the CRM, putting them in there. Like when you haven't got a systemized approach to the onboarding, it can be really limiting on the number of clients you can take on any one time. And it's quite liberating that once you actually get, you've agreed a contract with a client, you can just actually hand that over either to a system, to an automation, or to a person to deal that with you and be confident that person is going to get dealt with in the same way or even better than you could have done it, because the person you employ or the automation tool has limitless time, whereas you are very limited as the business owner. So, and the same goes for the delivery as well. We need a systemized approach to delivery to make sure that the person is getting the same consistent attention, the same amount of support, that it's not, you're not favoring anybody. It needs to be absolutely, in a way that's repeatable, reproducible, and therefore, when you are hoping to get referrals later, then it's much more predictable that you're going to get high-level referrals because everyone's getting the same amazing experience. So here, we're creating these systems around delivery is absolutely key to that success. And I've talked about this book before, but there's a great book called Never Lose a Client Again, or Never Lose a Customer Again. It's a fantastic book about this onboarding and delivery journey and how you can improve that. And as it says, never lose a customer again. Okay, so once we've attracted, we've closed, we've collected, we've multiplied, onboarded, delivered, the next thing we want to do is amplify. So again, once you've shown somebody your brilliant onboarding, your brilliant delivery processes and systems, and they've got a result that they expected, and therefore their expectations have been met, then they're going to be pretty happy. And at that point, we need to be capturing their feedback on the experience, whether that's through case studies, just a simple feedback form, NPS form, so a net promoter score form. So how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or colleague? And we capture it through either an app or just a simple Google form, or you're literally just asking them for how are things going. You can use Zoom meetings, for example. You can put a survey on the back of your Zoom meeting. You can use, as I say, you can use Google Forms. You can use specific NPS apps, Net Promoter Score apps. And you've probably actually got an app in your business, whether it's a CRM or whatever, which will have some sort of functionality that you can actually do this to capture feedback from people. And that feedback is massively useful, because if you've got a systemized approach to not only collecting the feedback, but then acting on it, you can then turn that feedback into the next stage, which is repeat. You can turn that feedback of, your 8, your 9s, and your 10s out of 10s. You can turn that into actively chasing those people to get referrals. They've just said they'd be happy to refer someone to you. So the next logical step for you as a business owner is to go and ask them for a referral. Who else do you know that would benefit from coming to work with us and getting similar results that you just got? And again, if you have a systemized approach to that, it means it actually gets done. Whereas what happens and it has happened in my business in the past, and has only recently had any change in that, is that I was actually still left being the one that was asking for referrals, that was actually following people up if they've completed a survey, and therefore we were missing out, I believe, on a lot of repeat business. Early days for us since I've actually handed this over, but I think that's going to be, most of our clients come from referrals. So it's absolutely insane that we haven't, we didn't look at this part of the business earlier, as in systemizing this part of the business. But it was only doing the core revenue flow that we identified, this is actually an area which doesn't have a proper system in place and it could easily be systemized. So this is something that we do in our business as much as we help our clients do, and we repeat it because we might miss stuff the first time around. Go back over it again once you've actually got your head out the we, so to speak, of where you're currently at, or maybe you're overwhelmed right now, and you come back and look at this again with a different eyes, and you see different opportunities within the same core revenue flow as well. So that's it. We've gone through the entire core revenue flow. We've looked at awareness and authority. We've captured our leads. We've nurtured those leads. We've qualified them into prospects, and so qualified them from prospects into opportunities. We've closed those opportunities and chased them up to make sure that we serve them if they need our help. We've collected the money. We've upsold them. We've multiplied that by asking for referrals. We've onboarded them. We've delivered our service. We've amplified that by, again, asking for referrals once they've actually got a result. And then we've got repeat business by actually asking them, finally, when they come to the end of their term, when you realize there's an opportunity to cross-sell them, when you see another challenge that comes up, maybe that you hadn't already offered them a service on, you can then offer them something else and get them to be a repeat client, whether that's for a landlord who's got more properties. You could try and take them on. It could be that you've got a client who has other projects. They weren't aware of some of the things that you did because it wasn't part of your core revenue flow, but now you've got them in. You can say, hey, did you know we also do X, Y, and Z? Or it could just be that you're getting them to sign up again for another term of whatever contract they had previously. And that's it. That's the entire core revenue flow. By going through this, again, I can't stress this enough. This is a high-level exercise. It's not meant to get into the details of when this stuff happens, who does it, how is it done. It's not about recording videos and doing anything about delegation. This is a strategic exercise. It's a planning to go through your entire core revenue flow and map out every system and every step that connects together. That if you can systemize that entire thing, it will create revenue in your sleep. And that's the absolute key. Now, once you've done this, the next step is going to be the difference between this just being an exercise you stick on your digital wall and it collects dust, or something that really makes a positive change in your business. And obviously that's ultimately what we want. So the next step is to go through this and to group these together in logical stages. Logical stage, like who is involved in this process? How involved are you? So for example, if I'll use myself as an example, for our awareness and authority, I record this podcast. This podcast gets repurposed into content across all of our social media channels. It gets published on all those channels. We then track, and when people comment, we comment back when people comment on posts. We drop the repurposed content and spread it out. We may do relaunches of previous episodes. So all of these things are about building our authority across social media, and that for me is a process that I used to do every single part of until I got someone to help me and slowly systemize that to the point where I do almost none of that except for literally recording this live episode. And then once this episode is recorded, and I've talked about this in a previous episode where I talked about our content repurposing, how we automate our content repurposing pipeline. That then is getting taken away, and all that is done with consistently. So I get nagged if I haven't got any episodes like ready to be released. I actually have one of my team nag me and say, hey, Steve, you've got to record some episodes today because we've run out and there's nothing more for us to actually publish out, and we can't do any more live streams. We can't do any more content repurposing because we haven't actually got any more. So having that person nagging me means that this stuff gets done consistently, and therefore we have this consistent flow. So For me, that was an area that I systemized. Then you've got the capture, the nurture, the qualify. You may think, that's actually one area that's going to be dealt with by one person. So let's group those together. Then maybe the closing, the chasing, the collecting is then one area. And then and the upsell, and then possibly the onboarding and the delivery you may group together, and the amplify and replete you may group together at the end. And the reason I talk about grouping things together is sometimes there's not a logical fixed break between each of these stages. When we're mapping them out, it's useful to put them in an order and have that flow so you don't miss anything. But then we're talking about the system. If I'm talking about the system of onboarding and serving your clients, you may see that as one process. For me, we actually do it into two. So onboarding is a separate activity to serving because our clients have a long life journey with us. Clients are typically with us for 12 months plus. And so therefore, the serving of clients becomes an entity in its own right. Whereas if your service and onboarding are much shorter, so if you're delivering a product to them, then your onboarding and delivery or your service delivery may just be the same thing. So that's what I mean about grouping things together. Sometimes it's not a one size fits all and you need to break up into all of these different stages. You can actually go, for our business, the same team, the same person, the same system manages those two aspects. So for example, like onboarding and delivery, like I said. And therefore, that's why I'm saying go through and just group them together. Once you've grouped them, the next thing is to prioritize which one you're going to focus on first. And I emphasize which one, because if you try and tackle them all at once, it'll take longer and they won't be done as well. If you just focus on one first, you'll get it done quicker, and therefore you'll have the time to then move on to something else. Because as soon as you've done this once, you've systemized it, you've offloaded it, you'll then free up some time to be able to then focus all that new time you've got on the next challenge, and then that compounds. If you try and do two or three things at the same time, it takes longer to get to the end result. And actually studies to say that if you try to do 3 projects, the overall length of time is longer than doing them 3 sequentially. And if you so it takes longer to get there, so you don't free any time for a lot longer. And therefore the compounding effects are far less significant going forward. So focus on one. And the key here, same with anything that I teach, is if you are personally still involved in a task, in a process, in a system like this, then focus on where you are most involved first, unless the complexity of it means that it's too challenging for you to offload, to think about how I could possibly offload that. So I'll give an example. If you have a service industry, a service business, and you are the person who's currently dealing with all of your clients, you're connecting with them, you're serving them, you're an accountant, you're a lawyer, you haven't got a team around you that can do that same role. You can't hand it over to them. So really, it's just you. Then focusing on trying to systemize and offload that first is probably not the best use of your time. But if in the same business, other activities are still involved in your social media, your client onboarding, your the sales process itself, any other part of that process, if that's still involving you as well, but actually you think, you know what? Actually, I personally don't need to be involved with that. I'll have my connections with the clients. They'll know it's me, but I'm going to then hand them over to say, look, I'm going to now hand you over to this person to do your onboarding. And then you'll come back to me when we do the service. If you can then carve out those parts, think, right, there are parts of the business which, yes, I'm still involved with right now, but I can see a path to remove myself. Those are the ones to start with. So pick easy stuff first to offload. If you haven't got any of the easy stuff left, then great, you can focus on some more complex stuff. But always make sure that you have actually systemized everything to the point that it doesn't require not only you, but also any other individual as well. So let me explain just so I don't confuse. So if there is an area of the business where you are heavily involved and you feel you can let go of the work, it's just that you haven't put the time and effort into thinking how to systemize it yet, that's a great place to start. If you are the only person in your head right now that can do a certain part of the business and you really can't figure out how else to do it, then don't start there unless there's nothing else to systemize. Then instead, focus on an area of the business where, yes, someone else is doing it, but you're solely reliant on that person's expertise. Because we need to remove the key reliance on any key individual from the entire core revenue flow for us to say it's truly systemized. Otherwise, that person leaves, goes on holiday, whatever, and then you will be left doing that work because they were the only person that could do it, and you as a business owner will then go and pick up the pieces when they actually even have to do their work for them until you can find and train a replacement. So the order of the systems we create is start with the stuff that's taking your time, unless it's super complicated, and to make sure that every part, starting with the easy stuff first, is systemized so it's not reliant on a key individual. Then, as you're going through step by step, you free up more and more of your time. You become less reliant on key individuals, so you protect your business, and ultimately you're left with that challenging system that you thought you could never get rid of. And that's the point. Like, for example, Humberto I worked with, he was a structural engineer. We helped systemize loads of parts of his business, and then he ended up hiring a structural engineer to work in his business so he could offload the one thing that he was the only one that could do it for a long time. But with his systems in place to onboard and to support him hiring another professional into his business, he was able then to start offloading the one thing that ultimately he felt in the beginning he would never be able to offload. And so that's the process that he went through. So that's it. I hope that's been helpful. This is what we call the core revenue flow. If you'd like to contact us and find out how we can help you build this out and systemize it, of course, I would love to help you do that. Go to systemsandoutsourcing.com and hit the book a call with me, and let's have a chat with me or one of my team, and we'll see if we're a good fit to help you. But ultimately, I'm here on this podcast just to try to serve you and give you loads of value, implementable stuff that you can help you in your business today. And I hope I've managed to achieve that. If I have, please share this with a friend and colleague. Let them also benefit from listening to this episode, and let me know your thoughts, likes, comments, and leave us a rating on your favorite podcast app if you feel it's been of value. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye now.